fastest man on the planet!
Mike Tyson's boxing for the PS1. Don't get fooled by the fun gameplay you're watching here. The actual gameplay in the game is nothing like this. First of all, I just have to say, this game has some of the worst voiceovers I have ever heard. I mean, you could barely hear what the people were saying in the intro there. You can't tell what the people are singing, and listen to the announcer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we proudly present our great evening of boxing action. From Moscow, Russia, we bring you 3 rounds of heavyweight boxing. Fighting out of the red corner, wearing his country's colors.
I mean, this is just embarrassing. This is a PS1 game from the year 2000, not an Atari 5200 game from 1984. This isn't the first YouTube vlog of a 12-year-old. What's with the horrible muffled mics? I've heard better quality voice acting in pinball machines. Helen Keller is James Earl Jones compared to this game's voice quality. So the first gameplay I tried in this game is just a basic sparring session in Mike Tyson's gym. I thought I'd go right for Mike Tyson since he's supposed to be like the baddest man in this game and see how well he fights. And oh my God, I couldn't believe it. The prevailing strategy in this game is to throw one punch at a time every 4 or 5 seconds or so. But you're not just throwing the punch. See, the punch is kind of wound up. You hold your hand out for like 3 seconds to, I guess, get some power or whatever. When have you ever seen this in boxing? I mean, this game uses cartoon logic. It's like you're holding your hand backwards like it's a slingshot or something. I mean, boxers have wound up a punch here and there, maybe to catch their opponent off guard, but this game takes that boxing anomaly and makes it as prevalent as something like a jab. And you know how I know this is the prevalent strategy you're meant to be doing in the game, and this isn't just something I cooked up? Because the NPC opponents fight like this. It's the only thing the opponents do. And in between rounds, you don't have cornermen or anything. The boxers just patiently sit there, staring at each other, and hitting one leg with their fist. It's like the creators of this game literally have never seen a boxing match. So, guys, what are the boxers supposed to do during the break? I'm not sure. How about they just sit there and stare at each other? Are you sure? Because I saw NASCAR once, and when the car pulled over in the pit stop, they had all these guys running around, fixing it up, changing the tires. That's ridiculous, Johnson. People aren't cars. So after actually getting into the career mode and fighting a few times, it finally hit me. Oh my God, the over-the-top view, the strategy in the actual boxing. This is boxing for the Atari 2600. It's exactly the same. You line up your left arm and your right arm with your opponent's face and you punch. The only difference is there's actually sways. You can kind of sway left and right to evade the enemy attacks, but they're worthless because it's impossible to time anything in this game. The best way to avoid the enemy is just to pitter-patter away and towards it. Your footwork is the only thing that makes you avoid punches. Also, you can just kind of hold the 2 sway buttons together and just block any attack your enemy throws at you. I swear if the enemy NPCs didn't have gelatin for brains, they would be able to completely absorb any punch I throw at them by simply blocking every time they see me winding up my ridiculous cartoon haymaker. And the training in career mode between fights is just completely convoluted. You can never really measure yourself up every week. You train a little bit, and even if you don't use up a lot of energy, if you save up enough energy for rest, you're still going to be really tired the next week. Oh, and apparently Mike Tyson is your trainer. So you want to fight for Mike? I can train you, work you hard, teach you how to fight, but you can only become a true champion if you want it bad enough. And the guy really doesn't do anything for you. He just tells you when you're tired or when you need to work on something specific in your attributes. You can see that on the screen without him telling you. His little hints seem completely worthless. It's basically redundant. He's repeating everything your stats already show you. It's like Mike Tyson breaks into your house at night and goes, "You should probably go to sleep." "Yeah, thanks, Mike. I was gonna go to sleep anyway because I'm sleepy. I'm tired, and that's the logical thing to do. But thanks for the tip, Iron Mike." So you just train a bunch of times, try to not tire yourself out, and at the same time try to raise your skills, but it never really works. You're always either overtrained or undertrained, and then once in a while you get challenged by one of the challengers, and that's when you leave this completely unimpressive career mode training menu and go into the fights. And this is, of course, where the game's ultimate failure lies. The gameplay is just awful. And how awful the gameplay is in the over-the-top views, it's so much worse in the other views. Like, if you switch to a third person, the game looks a lot better. Dare I say, it actually looks like a good boxing game. But there's no depth perception. You cannot possibly time yourself and set up your range well enough to throw punches at the enemies. There's also this side view, which almost makes the game 2D, and in this view, the game is unplayable. Like, it seriously shows just how bad the game's controls are when you have to fight from the side. You actually see how poor all the actions are, how completely useless your combinations are, and how stupid it looks when you hit someone. And a lot of the time, the game just lets you win. Like, sometimes I clearly lost a round, but for some reason, because the computer didn't completely own me, but just slightly beat me, the round was still a tie. It's like the game is basically saying, yes, we know our controls are complete garbage, so you know what? We're just gonna bribe the judges. That'll fix everything. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for the NES was a great arcade fighting game, and probably the most memorable boxing game of all time. Mike Tyson Boxing for the PS1 is like the polar opposite of that. It's like if Color Dreams made Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. This is just an awful boxing simulation and an awful game, period. It gets an official stanburdman rating of a 3.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, my friends.